Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share an update on my experience with the Lenovo Yoga C940 late 2019 refresh. Now, of course, this already was one of the best two-in-ones on the market before it received Intel's 10th generation processors, and now it's even better. We've got a 4K 14-inch display, which I have to say is one of the best on the market. The only way it gets better is if you move to something like the HP Spectre's OLED, which to some of you may not look as good because it's an OLED. That's really a matter of personal preference. But this 4K panel is still really good. In fact, some of you will think that it's better than the OLED on the 13.3-inch Spectre. But moving away from that, internals, we've got the Core i7 10th Gen processor with Iris Plus, which means you can game as well as, of course, create content in 4K, edit raw images in Photoshop. If you're going to run Adobe Premiere, this is a great lightweight machine, 2.89 pounds. You're looking at, so far in my experience, around 7 to 8 hours of battery life. If you want to improve that, you're going to have to move to the full HD rather than the 4K option. Let's take a look at some content playback. This is my unboxing, and the speakers, just like the previous generation, or I should just say previous model, still very good. They do get blown out at top volume, but here we go. Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Lenovo C940 late 2019 refresh. That means we have a 10th gen Intel Ice Lake processor, in this case a Core i7. Let me skip ahead. Like this with a Surface Pro 7 or no buffering laptop, in 4K. You're going to be spending a small fortune, and that doesn't mean that this machine was inexpensive, because it absolutely. Now this is $1,750 for this build. To have, such a compact machine, it's a. And unlike the HP Spectre that I'm also reviewing, this has a 0.5 terabyte NVMe, and otherwise specifications are nearly identical. Same processor, same 16 gigs of RAM, 2 USB Type-C ports, 1 Thunderbolt port in that 2. No micro SD card slot for storage or card reading on this, which I wish there was, but that's not a game breaker, of course. The bigger screen, a nice thing to have. The only other machine that really competes with this, other than the HP Spectre, that I'm also reviewing, is the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1. And of course, the 2-in-1 is all about the fact that this can go into tent mode, the screen flips around. I don't really feel this is ideal for tablet usage, so I think once we get up to 14 inches, and by the way, I love that it's a 14-inch display, but I think we have to be realistic about how large this machine is. Let's look at some 4K HDR content. I don't have this set to HDR right now, the good old Costa Rica standard. And again, the speakers are better on here than the Spectre and most other laptops in its class. Certainly better than what you'll get from Microsoft or Apple. And the display is gorgeous. I mean, there's no question about it. It's a beautiful display. Again, I don't think it's as good as the OLED on the Spectre X360, but still really nice. Great keyboard, really large trackpad for its class. That's another thing that, outside of turning to Microsoft or Apple's ridiculous design, you're not going to get a trackpad this large. So that's another thing. The HP Spectre, unfortunately doesn't have something this size. But then again, the Spectre doesn't have the build quality that we have here with the Lenovo. And by that, I mean the Lenovo is just solid all around. And that's something I wish we had with the Spectre, but we just don't. Now, even though this has better build quality, it does not have a Windows Hello IR camera. That's another thing I want to point out. And its design is eerily similar to the Asus ZenBook. And that bothers me a little bit. I don't like that it's a nearly identical build. I want a company like Lenovo, who I respect, like HP, like Dell, all of these different brands, to have their own design language and to have machines that are recognizable, because they've spent money and time on making something their own. And I'm not saying Lenovo hasn't done that, but the fact that the Asus ZenBook and this look so much alike, I'm just not a fan of the fact that we have such similar looking products. It makes me feel like both of them really aren't necessarily doing that much. And a lot has to do with the bump out, the extra lip here on the top of the display, because the Asus ZenBook has exactly the same design. The speaker here, again, best in class. It's Dolby Atmos branded. In terms of quality, it does still get blown out, though, at the top. And that's inherent because of the size of this machine. Pen input here has been good. It is a passive stylus. That means no batteries. It's perceiving input the same way it would from a finger, but from a tip of a pen. And I do think that it does a pretty good job. Gaming, because you have an Iris Plus here from Intel integrated, you can do it in the same way that you're able to edit 4K content as well as edit large raw images like I pull out of the A7R Mark IV from Sony. Those are 61 megapixel images. You can do it all on this machine. So that's the nice part. This type of stuff, you go to Microsoft and the spamware disappears. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get a machine like this, because you can always do a clean install. It doesn't mean you won't have problems. I haven't done that yet. Don't know if I will. I'll probably only end up doing that with the machine I end up picking for myself. But right now, the Lenovo C940 and the HP Spectre X360 2-in-1s are my favorites, if that wasn't clear already. I mean, I like what Microsoft has done a lot, but you get more for your money here and arguably a better machine when you've done a clean install of Windows. That's something you don't have to do with Microsoft, and I wish other manufacturers would get on board with that. It's not a new concept anymore. But so you can game here. Of course, you're not going to be gaming at 4K. You're going to have to turn down the resolution, but you can do it, and that's a big deal. Beyond that, I mean, web browsing, content consumption, those things are all fine. I'll jump over to some news sites, start off with one end of the spectrum. The machine just runs as it should. Pinch to zoom works. If you want to stick with touchscreen, you can. I'll go over to state news, which has been breaking occasionally with the state. And it just works well, again, even when that's what we have to look at. So I like it a lot. Keyboard is great. You're not going to have any complaints about the keyboard. You're not going to have complaints about the touchpad. The machine gets a little bit hot. And I think part of that is just, Lenovo not necessarily thinking everything through with the design. In fact, we didn't get a new design. All the heat dissipation is being done down here. Some ventilation behind the speaker hinge. But that's pretty much it. On the right side, we have the power button. I like that it's there. We have a pen right here pocketed into this corner. That's the passive stylus. I don't know if you guys hear my puppy right now, but he's crying, so this review is going to get a little bit rushed. We have our Type A USB 3 port here, Type C, two of them, and then your headphone jack. And of course, you see they designate the one for charging. The power brick's a little bit larger than the HP 65 watt charger, even though it's also a 65 watt here with the Lenovo. And of course, you have Thunderbolt. So it's a really compelling option. Another thing I want to point out is the finish on this laptop. Very impressive when it comes to fingerprints. If you watch any of my other reviews, you will see that nearly every machine I've touched, there's a residue. I don't care what the matte black finish or the strange HP Spectre finish that's going on. This one is as resilient to fingerprints as you can get right now. So I think that's a big deal. So right now, the Lenovo C940 looking good. Good battery life, good internals, good pen input. Not the best pen input, but again, the pen input is not really a primary or secondary feature of this machine. It's all about being a laptop and a tablet in one. Again, I feel the form factor on this is a little bit large to be a tablet. We've got fingerprint scanners, so that's all good. But still, I think this is going to make a lot of people happy. And if you need more battery life, you know that you can't go with the 4K version. So I'm still trying to figure out which one is right for me, the Spectre or the Surface laptop. And of course, all of you will eventually find out. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.